It's Good Morning Nigeria, and we're live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Subject for conversation this morning has to do with what many now regard as the humongous pension benefits of outgoing governors, who of course will be leaving office by the 29th of May 2023. Some of them having served, of course, 8 years in office. And this is on the basis of the laws passed by the state houses of assembly, and provoking a number of reactions from Nigerians. To set the tone for our conversation, we'll listen to a backgrounder put together by our correspondent, Abuja.
Few days left for the handing over from one political dispensation to another. Not only does the political transition end at the federal level, but some state governors will also be handing over leadership to the newly elected ones to continue from where they stopped. Well, as many would say, best attempts were made with much contribution towards a better Nigeria. At different jurisdictions, there have been peculiar issues and growth, cases of concerns, with many said to still be owing in debt, with pending unresolved matters yet to be put to rest. This means that many issues will be inherited by the incoming administration, especially the good and the not too good ones. No fewer than 18 outgoing state governors will be retiring, but this time around, they will be going into lives of luxury with generous pension benefits to be given to them, mansions to be built at locations of their choice, luxury vehicles and domestic as well as security aids, amongst others, based on laws passed by the respective state houses of assembly. This has brought about a series of reactions, especially when these states are in chronic debts with salaries of workers and pensioners being owned. Research says these governors will be leaving behind at least 3.06 trillion naira debt for incoming administrations. According to the Debt Management Office, the debt figures of these states include 2.27 trillion naira domestic loans and 1.71 billion US dollars foreign borrowings. The foreign debt is about 787.51 billion naira using the exchange rate of the Central Bank of Nigeria, which was 460.53 naira per dollar as of May 14, 2023. For example, despite the 225.51 billion naira domestic debt and 87.13 million US dollars foreign debt, the Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike and his deputy will enjoy generous benefits after leaving office, as provided in the Rivers State Pensions for Governor and Deputy Governor Law 2012. The law provides that 3 new vehicles should be purchased for former governors, and the vehicles are to be changed every 4 years. This is in addition to the payment of 100% of their basic salaries, 300% of their annual basic salary for furniture, free medical services and provision for entertainment. Their deputies also enjoy certain benefits. Pension law for former governors and their deputies was enacted by the administration of former Governor Rotimi Amechi and made other provisions such as 2 choice houses in any area of their choice in Rivers State and Abuja, and 3 cars replaceable every 3 years for the governor. Could this be said to be a better norm? This is one question begging for answers from our guest already seated in the studio.
Wow, now you know what we are in for. So that's Yemi Ajayi giving us a background report, insight into the context of our conversation this morning. Our guests are already seated, so let's start with introductions. And first we have Malam Inwa Shehu, who is an economist and finance expert. He's also the MD CEO IQ Melon Nigeria Limited. That's a research, training and management consultants. We'd like to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria. Thank you. Also here with us in the studio is Honorable Habu Isa Ajia, and Ajia is former Speaker, Taraba State House of Assembly.
It's my pleasure. All right, Okeke Aya is the program manager in charge of democratic governance at CISLAC, and is one of our guests this morning. Okeke Aya, we're glad to have you on the program.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's begin this conversation with the former Speaker of the Taraba State House of Assembly. And the issue we're talking about, pension benefits for former governors who have done 8 years in office, enacted by the various State House of Assembly. This relates, of course, to the role of the state legislature in what we are talking about. How did we get to this pass?
Well, I don't want to condemn the laws made by some states, but in my own opinion, it is in contrast with the position of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, because already there's package an act stipulating the salaries and what is supposed to be given to electoral officers. This act came as a result of a recommendation by the Fiscal and Revenue Mobilization Commission. The last one was reviewed in 2008 and passed into law, where salaries were spelled out clearly, their sovereign gratuities, their vehicles, and everything was spelled out. And if you are contesting an election as a governor, you are offering yourself to serve your people. And once you are elected, accommodation is provided for you, vehicles are provided for you, fueling, domestic staffs, and everything. So why should you, at the end of it, have pension again? Pensions, to me, pensions are meant for civil servants that have served their life in the service of a government, not for politicians that will just come after 4 years, then you expect to have something more than large as pension. To me, I think it's wrong.
Okay, let's bring in Malam in our show. So let's look at pension itself as an economic tool. Can you talk us through, what it's supposed to sell and who it's supposed to sell?
Well, thank you, and good morning to all the viewers. Pension as a concept, it's meant to be some sort of comfort conceptually for people who have dedicated almost, let's say, all their life to a certain profession, with the understanding that by the time you finish, there is not much left inside the tank for you to go and do anything substantial with your life. That's the basic idea and the basic concept behind pension. And if you ask me, it should not be applicable to this circumstance. The way, as a professional, I look at, if you go into a 4-year
circumstance, the state,
for instance, these state governors, okay. It's technically speaking, if it's a private sector, we will call it a contractual job. There's a specific period, say a 4-year period. Pension cannot be related to that, because it's just a small period. Even if you do 8 years, sincerely speaking, it's a small period. For you to start talking about pension, I think it's absurd, if you ask me. What I can tell you is that the real issue is even not whether it's applicable or not. Because these people we are talking about, the governors, we are talking about people who are supposed to be setting example, setting the tone. They are supposed to be the people that are supposed to know what is right, what is wrong. So even if you put away the fact that pension is not applicable, if this is their own company, for instance, okay, and they are not the ones that are supposed to run the company, they hire people for 4 years. Would they give them pension after they work for 4 years? I'm just setting an example. For me, the issue really is that we are putting people into places where they really don't belong. You need people who understand economics. Because even a state is supposed to be a going concern. I may not be a lawyer, I may not be conversant with all the laws, but when you look at it from an economic perspective, the question you will ask yourself, is this right? or is it wrong? If you have a state that is supposed to be in existence in perpetuity, meaning that the idea is not after 50 years the state stops to exist.
Okay.
So if you put all these pensions, are you not piling up enough weight to collapse the state, for instance?
Okay, so Malam Inia, thank you. So if you look at it comparatively in terms of time put into service, you look at the governors or the state executives served for at most 8 years, while the real pensioners serve for almost half of all their lives. So it's assumed that having given all your life to in service of a particular, your fatherland, you probably will retire at a time when you are vulnerable, you're weak, and you're fragile. So this pension is to serve, is to enable you get on. Get on. So let's hear your own perspectives, about this pension issue and the governor's perspective.
I think from whatever negative words that can be coined out from the dictionary, we go to address the issue of the pensions. It is morally wrong. It is economically wrong. In fact, it is an infringement on the fundamental rights of the citizens of all those states, because you have not provided for them the basics that these citizens need, and you are taking all this amount of money out of the system. Mind you, most of them are not just going back to what we call retirement. They are even moving to other levels. Some of them are going to become senators. Some of them may be appointed ministers, heads of parastatals, where they will still enjoy from largesse from the government purse. And we are taking away all this. Somebody will say in broken, do they fear God at all? Are you even afraid of God? I mean, at this level, I always have goose pimples when I even hear the kind of money. Some of them are even asking for security details. You become a senator, you also have a security detail. You become a minister, you also have. So what are you gathering all this for? And the people are suffering. Many pensioners we see on television are dying on queue, looking for money. Many people, schools, salaries of workers are not paid. At times, schools will close, and there's just this effort of one state trying to outdo the other state. Oh, this government has said it is 10 vehicles. We have to make our own 5, and it will get to a stage where the state assembly may pass a law that the annual appropriation of one state should be shared to the governor, to the outgoing governors, and that means the state will not have any running costs for that year, because it is a gradual thing, it is moving. So it is terrible, and I think we need to leave this thing at the board. It has to find a way to deal with this. We cannot move this way. When I mentioned that, this is after 4 years, a new set of governors. It's not as if the other governors were not paying for their debt anyway, as if they are going to die and the pension will stop. So as more governors that come out from a particular state, the state continues to bleed in terms of supporting them. It's not only supporting the governors. Now they support their deputies, they support their wives, who are not elected in any form. They are not elected officials. So why buy for governor? Why buy for deputy? Why buy for the governor's wife? Why buy? I mean, it is just crazy.
But thank you. Okay. I want to return to the former Speaker of the Taraba State House of Assembly. What is it that we are dealing with in this whole evolution of the huge pension benefits for former governors, former deputy governors? I'm asking this question because some time ago the issue also came up when lawmakers were saying that former speakers the National Assembly, or former Senate President, former Speaker of the House of Assembly, should also be entitled to pension benefits, almost seeking to equalize the governor. What is the contagion that is ravaging the system?
It's a very dangerous issue. And as I've said, once you are elected, once you offer yourself for election, you are coming to serve. You are established already. You have your own house. You have something that you are doing. And you now offer yourself to come and serve people. And they voted for you to serve them. Why some state legislators are angling for pension for speakers, similar treatment for speakers and deputy speakers, is because of the bad precedents some states set up, where they say the governor, as a head of the executive arm of government, is retiring with a house in Abuja, house in his state, 4 vehicles, while the speaker, as head of another arm of government, is leaving the State House of Assembly with virtually nothing apart from the vehicle that was given to him on loan. This bring about the State House of Assembly clamoring for the same treatment for their principal officers. But in every case, I want to say it's not popular. It's an unpopular law that the whole country should condemn it.
Did Taraba State also pass such a law?
There's nothing like that.
So
there's nothing like that.
So your governors are not benefiting?
My governor or the governor of Taraba State is not supposed to have any.
Is he benefiting? That's what I'm asking.
By the time I left the State House of Assembly, there was nothing like that. But along the line, they came out with a position that the governor, retiring governor, or the governor exiting, is supposed to have. I think they provided something small for him to go, unlike what is happening now.
What do you mean small?
Like they say he will go with the vehicles that he has worked with.
How many? Because other states were specific. All the states we've seen were specific. Like maybe for governors, you have 1 Jeep and 2 other backup cars.
Yeah, he's supposed to go with a Jeep, a backup car, and a Hilux. But what is happening now, recently, I was made to understand that the outgoing governor, the governor is supposed to go, has expended 2 billion naira, buying vehicles, 4 for himself, brand new, 4 for himself, 3 for the deputy governor, 3 for his wife, and 2 for the deputy governor's wife.
Well, thank you. As we are listing all of this, it's not just in Taraba. You have it in Lagos, you have it in Akwa Ibom, you have it in virtually all the states of the Federation. And I will say that this has been a malaise that has been on since 1999. Not, of course, beginning 1999, with those who came first into office in 1999 and then exited in 2007. You are listing all these vehicles that they are buying. How many primary health care centers do they have functioning in these places?
I was even going to add, because there was my question was leading me somewhere, because a former speaker in Lagos tried to justify the law, and I was listening to his statement in one of the sister media stations when he was put on the spot, and he said he made a comparison between former governors. In fact, he mentioned late Jakonde, and an incident involving late Jakonde, who was so poor that he didn't have even a decent vehicle to convey him when they left power, and that they didn't want a similar situation to befall succeeding governors and all that, and so they came up with that. But you now discover that pension are some form of contributory remuneration. It's you, the worker, you contribute, you make contribution, you make financial contribution, as well as the employer. So, do governors make pension contributions to be entitled to pension?
No.
I think it's ridiculous that you are even asking that question.
No.
Let me, because you mentioned the case of Jakande. I don't know how long he was governor. Okay?
4 years, 3 months.
Okay, 4 years, 3 months. So if Jakande, and I mean no disrespect, if Jakande at some point was so poor, it simply is not because of the work he did for 4 years. There must have been something wrong that he did with all his life.
No, I'm sorry. Let me
explain what I'm saying. I'm not referring to his own case.
Mala, let's get the record right and straight. Alhaji Lateef Kayode Jakande is one of Nigeria's most...
I'm not talking about him as a person.
We're talking about... hang on. I want to give you the... let's get the background right. He's one of Nigeria's most respected journalists. And the fact that he led a simple life did not mean that he was in penury.
I'm not talking about...
No, just hang on, please. Hang on. So that we will not be seen to be impugning either his memory or otherwise. He lived a simple life. He used his personal vehicle when he was governor of Lagos, and he lived in the same house at Ilupeju in Lagos, and after office, that's where he still lived by choice.
But
his achievements, achievements are all over the place.
Yes. Let me sorry, before you say it, I need to clarify this. I am not talking about Lateef Jakande. And I'm not the one that brought Lateef Jakande aside. What I'm talking about is a concept. I may have piggybacked on that point, but I'm saying that if a person lived his life, all his life, his full adult life, say he worked for 30, 40 years, okay? Conceptually, to say that, no, you are going to put a policy in place because people that work for a specific 4 years, they are ending poor. I'm saying that logic is faulty. That if that is the case, then you need to go back and look at the whole life of the person. To start with, this governorship we are talking about is not a profession, sincerely speaking. So I'm sorry if you feel that I'm talking about Lateef Jakande, and I hope the viewers
so the logic of providing an economic buffer for governors,
yes,
in future, is ironic. That's what you're saying.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Okay. That all the people that are supposed to be governors would have lived a full adult life. They must have done some professional work. But the key point for me, really, the key point in all this issue for me, and he mentioned it, is because the truth is you have to balance the act. If you are ruling a state or you're leading a company, there has to be an income and expense. The key issue for me, even some of these states, what is their internally generated revenue that you're putting? For instance, Taraba State, for instance.
Hold on, we'll come to that. Let him.
There's nothing wrong in a state gifting out a car to a former governor that has served diligently and in a situation where he doesn't have a car. There's nothing wrong with that. But for the system to specifically said a ex-governor is entitled to this number of cars when leaving office or every after 4 years is morally wrong.
Until death.
Except in a state where, or in a country where there is no effective healthcare system, the education system is poor, there is no road, there is no transportation system, everything is in shambles, and yet a state will come out with a law, like a very poor state that whose IGR cannot even sustain the state. Then you now go about making a law, gifting a governor 4 cars simply because he's going.
Is it the law itself or the number or the luxury that is attached to the law that we're talking about?
If you're talking of the luxury, as a governor, the luxury is, you cannot even quantify the luxury that the governor enjoys.
I think for me, even if we provided, if for example Nigeria is El Dorado, we have all the good schools, we have basic transportation and the rest of them, it is still morally wrong after serving for 4 years or 8 years, with all the extra codes, with all the paraphernalia of office, with all your salary, and still be given something of that magnitude? Even if they have done, even if the person is the best governor that has ever existed in this part of the world, it is still morally wrong. Because this is, like we keep on saying, you are going to be eating on the finances of the state year after year after year, even for people that were not even constitutionally given powers to run a state. So there must be a stop to this. There must be a stop to this, and these things need to be returned. We cannot begin to say that it is a law by the state and the rest of them. I think we have to find a way of challenging this, because, like I mentioned, it may have come as a joke. This one of these days, the annual appropriation of the state might not even be enough to cushion the idiosyncrasies that we are putting up today.
I just wonder, let me also throw this in. Because we didn't have this kind of examples during the Second Republic. I've mentioned that on Good Morning Nigeria in the past. Professor Ambrose Ali was governor of the old Bendel, which is now Edo and Delta states, from 1979 until 1983. And of course, he lost the election to Ubemudia, who became governor, and after 3 months later, there was the shutdown of the Second Republic. Professor Ambrose Ali, upon leaving office, he was a professor of medicine, retired to his family home. And of course, they had the trials of former office holders, they were jailed for hundreds of years, and upon the payment of the fines, they were eventually released. He died on his 60th birthday, but he retired to his family home. There was nothing like the kind of benefits that we are hearing. What two issues that I'm not putting you on the spot, but former Speaker of the House. Look, there is a provision by the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission that talks about not just the pay, that's the emolument of political office holders, from president to special assistant at the state level, but also the severance package for each of them. Severance normally will come to say, look, you are exiting office, and there is a presumption that there is no pension awaiting you. Exactly. So the severance package is calculated. I think it's about 300% of your basic salary. 300%. That of what the government was. If your salary is, let's say, 100,000, what you take as your severance benefit is times 3, which is 300. Now, why is it? Is this a matter that has occupied or engaged the attention of the Conference of Speakers? If you have this provision already in the law, why have state lawmakers been falling over themselves to still pass this kind of, as some have argued, outrageous pension benefits in situations where people are over 130 million dimensionally poor? No primary health care centers in most of the centers. People are still fetching water from all kinds of what does it cost to sink a borehole in our homes? And what does it cost to just put a hand pump in a community so that you can reduce waterborne diseases in those communities? But why is it that the Conference of Speakers has not, assuming it hasn't, focused on these issues and say, look, we have to put a stop to this?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. The Conference of Speakers, they need to have a synergy over this matter. The law, that's why I said that the laws made by states in respect of these pensions and whatever is unpopular and is in contrast with the position of the Constitution, because the act of the National Assembly is in the Constitution and is supersedes that of the law made by states. The packages are there, clearly spelled out. When they say you have a sovereign gratuity of 300% of your basic salary, it does not investigate that you should have pension after collecting that amount of money. The salary of a state government is about 2.2 million naira. That's 300% of this 2.2 million naira is a severance package. That's your gratuity. That's what we are taking on. As I'm talking to you, a governor that's how we need to strengthen the state assembly as an institution. Most of them are being manipulated by governors. As I'm talking to you, there's a governor that is currently, he's at loggerhead with his state house assembly because he has taken the same bill for them to pass so that he will have house in his state, he will have house in Abuja and cars and pension. As I'm talking to you now. And the same governor is owing the state house assembly members 5 months salaries. He has not paid them for 5 months. He has not paid the state civil servants for 10 months. And yet he's sending this bill for the state house assembly to pass. So the conference of speakers, they have to come together, understand the gravity of what they are trying to do, and discourage themselves or other houses of assembly from doing the same.
I wish for me that the conference of speakers, that they receiving any political will within that system. Why I said that, I said it advisedly, is that there is no speaker that is not in the pocket of the governor. Now, I don't know. As far as I know, if, for example, state assemblies can even come together and say they don't want to be independent, at some point, you can now begin to understand how severe it is. So, I don't even think that some of those speakers will go out and do anything contrary to what the governor has told them to do. I understand what you are talking about in the particular state you are mentioning, and I can say that because there are certain gap that has happened within that state. If it is the governor's chosen candidate that won election to remain as governor in the coming dispensation, that bill would have been passed. So I don't have much of sorry to say that, Mr. Speaker, I don't have much of serious respect for the state assemblies in being independent to do things for the benefit of the people when the governor is on the other side. Basically, majority of them will work with the governor rather than work with the people. And that is why, sir, we have this kind of problem where states are passing bills to ensure that their governors get away with such amount of money and amount of property.
I understand that if some state executives are already putting forward executive bills to amend those laws in their respective states, to repeal those laws in their respective states. I don't know if Lagos had finally done that, because it was reported that Governor Sanwo-Olu did present a bill to that effect. We don't know the update, but I'm just curious what would have, because if it's not enshrined in our constitution, the position of executive governors not questionable. What was the wisdom?
You see, most of the states
just want to,
this lack of autonomy by state house assemblies is one of the problems. The House Assembly is one of them. If you allow the State House Assembly to depend on the governor for virtually everything, for legislature, for their welfare, for their salaries, for their everything, then definitely they must, in most cases, play into the hands of the government.
So you think the legislators were bullied into passing those laws?
Most of them, that is it.
For want of word.
That is it. But I'm not saying all. I'm not saying all.
Okay, which raises another related question. Because what we're talking about is not at the national level. We're talking about what is happening at the sub-national level. Now, are citizens in the states so weak, so incapacitated that they do not see and therefore rise to say, no, this must not be? Because assuming this were at the federal level, I'm sure you and I will not have any access to come to NTA studios, because there will be protest groups. They will block Unity Square, Unity Fountain, block Eagle Square, block everywhere, block CBN, block everywhere to say, President, why are you doing this? National Assembly, why are you doing this? Why is it that citizens in the states they are sleeping on their rights?
Well,
Thank
you very much. Thank you very, very much. I think one of the biggest challenge we have at the state level is the challenge of citizens not properly, conscientized the way we are up here. The other one is that citizens at that level are even so impoverished. Their level of understanding of what they should do, their rights, is even very, very low. To even begin, as far as they are concerned, it is government thing, because government has actually denied them even the processes for them to demand some of their rights. So any little thing the governor, you can even see, even when they use the traditional rulership institutions to subjugate the people further. When they do a little thing, the traditional rulers gather their constitutional rights. You are right as a citizen. Either they do a borehole for you, the governor, the traditional ruler will come and give the governor a chieftaincy title for doing a borehole in the community. So those little things, citizens see them as a favor. There's a problem of how do we get citizens to deal with it. But the citizens are really impoverished. They don't understand what their rights are.
Is it also possible that sometimes such laws are just passed, even without the
public hearing?
Yes, because
yes,
there was no public hearing. In the case of Lagos, again, according to reported sources, the bill to repeal that law, as presented by the governor, a public hearing was held to determine whether.
Let me tell you, because these are political. These are it's seen as a good bill, so you need to bring it to the consciousness of the people. I am doing this to ensure that we no longer collect this. Now, appropriation bills of states, at times, members of the House of Assembly don't even have copies of it. Talk less of ordinary citizens. So where will you stand? I have seen on television where a governor finished reading a bill, an appropriation bill, rather than lay it on the table of the House of Assembly, folded it and put it in his pocket, and even the members stood up and clapped for him, and he walked away. These are the challenges, because it is our representatives, even at those levels, that should make citizens to understand. They are supposed to have constituency offices where they engage citizens to tell them what they are doing. So when those things are lacking, why some of these things are still happening at the national level, trying to do protests and the rest of them? Because this is almost a mixture of a lot of intellect, a lot of involvement of various groups and coalitions that are working together, which are lacking. In most states, you cannot even find one viable civil society group, because immediately a governor sees that somebody is speaking against him, he goes after the person. And that ends almost those agitations and those.
We're not saying that the state executives don't deserve, like you all said earlier on, they have their severance packages and maybe some other things to go by. But what we're looking at is the weight of the pension package against the economic realities and against the our indices, our development indices, against the poverty
The
level.
existence even of
Yes.
the state itself.
Let's give us an economic calculus.
Yes, that
of what-
because look, let's even go back to the basics. As human beings, we are first and foremost all about economics, even before you talk about social things. I give you a simple example. If I'm in Sokoto or in Bauchi and I get a good job offered for me in Port Harcourt, and I tell people, oh, Mama, I go to my mother, I say, Mama, because I want to be close to you, or I want to be close to my friends, I'm not taking it. What do you think my mother would say? She will spank me and say, go and take it. So it means that the economics for the individual is more important even than the social issues. If you want to go and marry, for instance, you go to a family, the first thing the father or the mother would look is this guy economically viable beyond the fact that you love him? So if you extend that to our general social life, the reality is that people need to understand that economics is fundamental. Beyond the issue of morality, beyond the issue of law, these things that people are doing, is this sustainable economically? This is the first and fundamental question for me.
Have you tried?
For instance, let me tell you.
Have you tried calculating?
I've done the number. I know a state, for
numbers.
instance, that the guy they are purporting for him to go away with a pension of 2 billion. I look at his IGR. In the whole year, his total IGR is 15 billion naira.
15?
Okay, 15 billion naira for a whole year. Because that is what you should look at. Don't look at the money that the federal government is giving you. That is not an economic income. It's not an economic income. What I mean by economic, people can dash you something. Tomorrow they decide they won't dash you. In this country, we've seen a federal government that decided to stop giving allocation to a subnational. We know during Obasanjo's time. So I'm saying,
straighten this again for the benefit of our viewers. You say a state is proposing
2 billion, about 1 point something.
Almost 2 billion.
Almost 2 billion.
2 billion.
Yes.
In the meantime, the IGR of the state
Total IGR for 2021, I'm not quoting figures, 2021, and it's not a COVID year. I use 2021. 2021, total IGR is about 15 billion naira. But the extrapolation for me, really, is like he said. I think somebody said it here. If one state does it, the thing is that other states will follow. We have states in this country where the total IGR for a whole year is about 6 billion. Okay. And like we've seen, they are overdoing themselves. So the sustainability of it is not sustainable. And again, on top of that, you see, what we need to understand is that as a state, for instance, if you call me to go and take 40, 50 buses to say a Zamfara state, okay, the first thing as a business person I will do, I will look at the economic viability of the state. I will look at the books of the state government itself. What is their income? What is their expense? So the way we are piling, and I'm not talking only IGR, these states also, don't forget that they have a lot of debt. So if you put the numbers together, and the fact that this you give one governor 2 billion, another 4 years, another governor will come, another 2 billion. And the truth is that if I'm like my brother here, if the former speaker or the speaker of a state decides to give him some pension, I will take the thing to court. Even me that was a former speaker, you guys must retroactively put me on that. So I'm just saying that the whole thing is a scheme that is bound to collapse. We are not even, sorry sir, we're not even talking about sustainability. The truth is that in 2015, we tend to forget in Nigeria, it's not up to 10 years, where half of the states were not able to pay their salaries.
So back to the question. And I have attempted a response to that. Of course, cogent and valid. Namely, why is it that citizens in the states are sleeping on their rights to challenge what we are seeing?
2 reasons, sir. The first reason, I think, as a people, the military psychic, where we always tend to look at a central authority, is part of the explanation. A governor in a state, I can give you examples, but because we're on a national television, it wouldn't make sense. But when I speak, people will tend to add 2 and 2 together. You find a state governor who is not performing. What does he do? All his issues, he will say, is the federal government. And of course our people, because number one, we're a little bit poor. And poverty is a vicious cycle. It doesn't allow you to think out of the certain circumstances you find yourself. Number two, most of our people, truly, we haven't educated our people to be able to think independently. So what people in a certain authority tell you, you tend to believe it. The culture in Nigeria is pointing finger. A person in Southeast will tell you it is the federal government. A person in Southwest will tell you it's the federal government, because the people in federal government are probably not from that side of it. So we tend to point fingers, number one. But the second major issue, he pointed it out, the structure of the state governance is too autocratic. The governor collects the money for local governments. Nobody talks even of local government today in Nigeria. The governor will handpick the people in his political party. He put the political party in his pocket. The governor will put the National Assembly in his own pocket. We see that the governor is the one who will put and remove the royal fathers.
Okay, now let's quickly, before we go on a short break.
Let me add to what he's saying.
Yes.
You see, it's true the governors are like Alpha and Omega in their state. But then the civil society, they have a responsibility here. Mm-hmm. If most of the states are not ever aware or they are afraid, that's where the civil society, the civil societies need to. They shouldn't leave states on their own and just concentrate on the federal government and they be occupying the stance. And they need to, civil education, they need to educate, they need to mobilize, they need to structure from the federal down to states. Like this is like, we don't have representation in my state. If you have representation in my state, and I'm sure you will educate them, and these are things that they will come out to defend themselves. I cannot see why a governor will decide to buy vehicles worth 2 billion naira a sitting when he has not paid gratuity of civil servants for 7 years, and yet they're keeping quiet.
Yeah, but there are some things that we need to be mindful of. For instance, these state governors, their power we don't seem to appreciate. Do you know that it's a state governor that
governors are not our governors? Excuse me, our governors more powerful than president.
Land, if you talk too loudly against him, he revokes that CFO, for instance.
When you know you're right, it will not happen.
Let's quickly take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue with our conversation. All right, welcome back again. It's Good Morning Nigeria Live, and we're looking at pension and, of course, ex-governor's pension and implications on our economy. And we were having a conversation. I was just going to say, Honorable Ajia, that even in some states, it's not usually the state executive or the chief executive that sits the ex-governor's pension bill. It's the speakers, the members of the state houses of assembly, that initiate that themselves. So let's not really put all the blame and say, look, you guys are rubber stamped or you are being bullied. No.
It's true. I'm not defending the state house of assembly or the speakers, but in honesty, no state house of assembly will initiate pension bill for outgoing governor or former governors. If states will initiate, they will include themselves. But most of the pension bills are executive bills.
Lagos State did.
Do you know what happened behind the scene?
Well, we don't say what we don't know.
But even in Lagos, it was an executive bill. That's bill emanating from the state, from the executive arm of government, then passed by the state house of assembly.
Well,
bills can come.
The issue is this. If the governor is not in sync with the bill, he refuses to assent. So if the governor assents the bill, if, for example, the governor assents the bill, whether it has been done by it's a private member bill, that means he is in agreement.
Who refuses a good thing?
If you have questions,
if the governor feels that this is not right, Okay, is it not the governor of same Lagos State that wants to repeal, in quote, the bill? Is it not something that is it not a good boon for him to also chew?
Well, let's have recourse to this. I've been pretty conscious not to bring in too much legality, because of the economic perspective, governance, and then of course this former speaker who has some grounding in this. When you look at the constitutional framework for pensions, there's no way you will not be concerned about the illegalities that we have seen enacted in State House of Assembly and the payment of these what has been described as outrageous pension bills. The Constitution guarantees pension rights for public servants at the subnational level and also at the federal level, including provisions that pension benefits are not taxable. Now, take a look at that and move on to two other issues that we have also referenced: the work of the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission and the entitlements that it passes, which then becomes an act. The emoluments for public office holders, politically appointed persons or elected persons, and then there's their severance package at the end of their tenure. Plus, in the case of governors, and also in the case of the president, while you are in service, you are not supposed to be engaged in any other job. And the presumption is that the state or the federation will look after you. So, for 4 years, for 8 years, you are, to put it in the popular lingo, government pikin. The government takes care of you. You don't know the cost of salt. You don't know the cost. Claire and I yesterday were discussing the price of a tuber of yam. She said it was 2,000. I said it's between 1,005 and 1,700. She kept insisting on 2,000. I don't know whether that is for purpose of domestic budgeting, but I said so you don't know the price. The price of tomato has gone up in the market because of Ebola tomatoes in some states. You don't know whether it's just every time the governor wants to feed is a banquet, because there are people who will also come. So you have all of this for the purposes of keeping you going, so you are not going cap in hand XYZ. How then can you explain that with the provision in the remuneration and severance benefits for politically elected and appointed persons, you still have this topping on top of it? And see how scandalous it is. Apart from, we're talking about cars. These are wasting assets. You will have a house in the state capital or in the state, wherever you choose, and then anywhere they also prefer Abuja. Do you know what the cost of a property is in Abuja? The economist, I'm just wondering, see, because at the state level, at the end of the day, you talked about IGR. It is the citizens of the state that will still have to contribute for these ongoing payments. Why are the citizens has poverty been so weaponized that they can't see beyond they say that's what governor be?
Well, okay, there are, I would say, 3 issues. The first issue, it's you hardly would be able to talk about what really doesn't come to your consciousness. Like he said, some governor will not even allow the House of Assembly members, probably the Speaker, Deputy Speaker, a few couple of people will pass bills, and that is it. So the people in the state really would raise issues when they get to know and hear that this is what the governor is doing. So it's very important, the level of information, which now throws the ball back to the court in terms of our journalists. Because even the Nigerian journalists, they tend to focus more on the federal government. You hardly, for you to get data, for instance, about a state, you have to go to the federal level. This is the construction that is faulty, if you ask me. So you are in a state, but you don't know what is happening in your state. For you to know what's happening in that state, you have to go out of that state and go to something out of the state for you to be able to. So that flow of information, maybe what we need to do is to begin to focus part of the journalism within the state. And I'm saying with all confidence, and I'm saying it because I have enough experience to know that the construction today in the country has given the state governors too much power. And we all know, it sounds like cliche, they say power corrupts.
Absolutely.
But I mean, the power of a state governor is more than an absolute power, because like you rightly pointed out, you are now a powerful person within a subnational where most of the proper people of that state also, the way Nigeria is, if you are a big man in Kano, for instance, or in Zamfara, the next thing is you are looking for a job either in Lagos or in Abuja, isn't it? The big companies are not in the state. The big jobs, and so most of the people in the state we can say are small fishes. The people that really can sit and challenge the governors are outside the state.
If you, thanks for what you are saying, because we've talked about the emperor status, or if you like, the imperial status of governors in the Fourth Republic. I would say governors are very powerful, XYZ. But the provisions relating to the powers of governors in the 1999 Constitution as amended are in pari materia with the provisions in the 1979 Constitution. Yes. So how did we allow ourselves to get captured, if you may, by state governors? It's a pertinent issue. The powers, as you, in 1979 Constitution, read it, the same powers you have in the 1999 Constitution, even with all the amendments. And in fact, some of the amendments are even eroding some of those powers that we're talking about. So what happened between, well, of course, there was interregnum, but how did we allow ourselves to be captured? Was it somebody poverty, somebody would speak, nobody would talk, XYZ, or still the same military mentality we're talking about? Before 1979, the country had been under military rule for 13 years.
Yes, 13 years, for instance.
But before 79.
Yes. Okay, let's look at, for instance, if you look at the governors then, or the structure, how many states before? I think it was 19 states. Mm-hmm. So the bigger they are, part of the problem is that we think we've created many states, but the fact that you've created so many states has reduced the amount of focus even on these states. And for me, it is the primary issue, is the fact that the people, not just that they are only powerful, the power they get comes because people are not looking at them. If people begin to focus on this, I totally agree with you. If civil societies are looking at what the governors are doing, if journalists are looking at what the governors are doing, and most importantly, the people in the state, the elite, because whether we like it or not, in Nigeria, the person who is looking for what to eat really does not have time for what.
We have to move forward.
Let me just come in here to tell you the difference between 1979 and 1999. Most of the players in the 1979 political era were still Nigerian citizens that played role within the First Republic. Yes, there was military there was military interregnum, but they were basically politicians and democrats.
Statesmen.
Now, from 1999, it threw up. People were actually that were the boys of the military guys. Yes, it threw up the boys that they were no longer the kind of old democrats that we had in 79. So it was the game changer. So when these people came in, they started acting as military officers, subverting legislature, because that is the first angle that the military usually will do when they take over, is to subvert the legislature. So when they came in, they started subverting the legislature, ensuring that the local government don't work. And when you have that kind of system, and now we have even stayed in this kind of democracy more than we have ever stayed in a democratic institution. So you find things that are going to get worse than it were.
Honorable Ajia, soon, the newly elected and returning, political officers will assume office. And it's expected. The Federal High Court in Lagos had given, an order, asking the federal government to, retrieve pensions collected by, ex-governors or whatever. I'm wondering, is this well, this is a court order? How possible is it without even repealing those laws?
The order of a court is has to be respected as long as it has been given and it has nobody challenged it. That it stands. Even if those laws passed by some states, and luckily enough, few states, not all of them, very few states.
About 18 states. Yeah.
About 18 states.
So I hope.
The governors that are coming in should do everything humanly possible and repeal those unpopular laws. They should sponsor for the repeal of those laws. One. And they should make effort to retrieve the money as directed by the court. And if they cannot, they should stop paying and concentrate on issues that have direct bearing, like education, primary health care, infrastructure, roads, and agriculture in their state. That's to eradicate, to work on poverty and unemployment in their state.
We're having a conversation, so let me throw this in, because I'm not a guest. I mean, we are moderators. Some of these pension laws that you have for state governors also have implications for the federal government, and also cost elements for the federal government and cost elements for the citizens. When you say in a pension law, as a benefit to a former governor or a former deputy governor, that you should have so many security aides. Who are they? Are they private security guards? They will be part of the misuse of security personnel, whether DSS or whether police. When we say we have only about 320,000 policemen available, and 150,000 of them are on private security guard duties, why then will it not be an issue that you cannot find policemen on beat patrols? Who recruits, who trains, and who pays the DSS and the police officers? These are federal officers. So why then will a state government through, I don't know, so that's why then will the state government be imposing the cost on the federal authorities?
Look,
sure.
Yes, for me, like I started by saying, it boils back to economics. All these issues, all the problems we're dealing with, we're discussing, is because fundamentally the people we're electing don't seem to understand the economic dynamics of life. But at the end of the day, he mentioned something, that at the end of the day, there will be problem paying. This is where I see the subnationals going. There will come a time where people can simply not see the money to pay. That will come to the end of the whole matter. But back to the issue you raise. Take for instance, let's say the police that you're talking about. What a leader should understand is that all these things we are talking about, you are looking for pension, you are looking for this, you are looking for that. The starting point is that there has to be security within the environment. If you carry the police individually to your house,
you have to round off your thoughts now.
Okay, so if for instance you have, in the name of individuals, bastardized the security apparatus, and there's no security in the environment, so it calls everything to nonsense. Even the economic activities will grind to a halt. We've seen it in some of these states. Things have stopped. So I'm just saying that at the end of the day, people should begin to look at things from economic perspective.
Well, and that part of that economic perspective is, why should the state government make a law that imposes cost on the federal government for the execution of that law?
Nobody looks at the economics of whatever we do.
Precisely. That's the
nobody looks at it.
Okay, so finally from you, what can be done now?
Yes.
Can the money be retrieved, or should the coming governors or new governors repeal the laws?
I think from what he mentioned, if there's already a subsisting court judgment, the court's the order that it should be stopped and money should be retrieved. I think it is now lies on the onus of the chief executives of those states, the incoming governors, to do same. But I have my fears. My fears stems from the fact that, when these governors want to leave, they are always eager to put somebody who will do their bidding. And begin to wonder how many of such, if we still have people in those positions, how many of them will be able to carry out the court order, or probably even if they are not paying again, they may just select a sleeping dog lie. But I think one for me is the issue of the court order and for these monies to be retrieved. The other one is to continue to urge the media to continue to flag it as a national issue, because most of the time when issues like this come up, I know why I say it's a national issue. When issues like this come up, we discuss it. Before you know it, another issue has taken over. Okay. And before you know it, that one is done. We have to stop it at there.
The media, the civil society.
We have to, exactly.
And Claire,
yes.
Part of, we can't get into this now. Part of the mental structure that drives all of this, whether it's the size or the debt of a state or the beneficiary, they will tell you that a government is a continuum. You will inherit debt, you will do what you can do, and then move on. Another one will inherit. As I said, the going concern. But the going concern can collapse. States can go, countries can go bankrupt.
Of course. All right, Kenya, Program Manager, Democratic Governance, CISLAC. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And of course, we have Right Honorable Abu Isa Ajia, former Speaker at Taraba State House of Assembly. Always a pleasure to have you with us. Then we also appreciate Malam Inua Shehu, who is, of course, MD, CEO, IQ Melon Nigeria Limited, Research Training and Management Consultant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right. Let's take a quick look at